Hello guys, in today's video we are going to see about stoichiometry of chemical reactions and about a limiting agent. The word stoichiometry is derived from two Greek words, stoichion and metron. Stoichion means element, metron means measure. So stoichiometry deals with the calculation of the amount of the reactants and the products involved in a chemical reaction. So before we study about the calculation, let us know what information is available from a balanced chemical reaction. Whenever you take any reaction, you can represent it in the form of a chemical equation. So when you write an equation, what are the informations you can get from a chemical equation? That's what we are going to see now. Let's take an example of a reaction in which calcium carbonate reacts with HCl to give calcium chloride and water and carbon dioxide. So these two are the reactants and these three are the products. So when you write a chemical equation like this, and I hope you all know how to balance a chemical equation. Here you have two chlorines, so you are putting 2 here, so that here also the chlorine becomes 2. So from this equation, you can know how many moles of the reactants are reacting to give how many moles of the products. So see, 1 mole of calcium carbonate is reacting with 2 moles of HCl to give 1 mole of calcium chloride, 1 mole of water and 1 mole of carbon dioxide. So according to this chemical equation, 1 mole of calcium carbonate is reacting with 2 moles of hydrochloric acid to give you 1 mole of calcium chloride and 1 mole of water and 1 mole of carbon dioxide. So from this chemical equation, not only moles, you can calculate the mass of the reactants and the products. Let's see how we do it. Now look at this formula. You have calcium, 1 carbon and 3 oxygens. Now you calculate the molecular mass of this compound. For calcium, the atomic mass is 40, and for carbon it's 12, and oxygen it is 16. There are 3 oxygens, so 3 into 16. So when you add it up together, you get 100 gram. So the mass of calcium carbonate here is 100 gram. And now take HCl. For hydrogen it is 1, atomic mass is 1, and for chlorine it is 35.5. So 1 plus 35.5 will be 36.5, and you have 2 moles, so 2 into 36.5, that will give you 73 gram. Now coming to the products, calcium again it's 40 atomic mass, and for chlorine it is 35.5, and there are 2 chlorines, so 2 into 35.5. So 40 plus 2 into 35.5 will give you 111 gram. And for water, you know the molecular mass is 18. So 18 gram of water, and for carbon dioxide it is 44 gram. So according to this equation, 100 gram of calcium carbonate combines with 73 gram of HCl to give you 111 gram of calcium chloride, 18 gram of water and 44 gram of carbon dioxide. So as per this equation, these are the masses of reactants and the products. Now if any of the reactants are the products are in gaseous state, then you can say the volume in the equation. So here calcium carbonate is not a gas. Same way HCl, calcium chloride, water, they are, reactant or product here is gas. But coming to carbon dioxide, it is a gas. So you can say the volume of carbon dioxide involved here. How many moles of carbon dioxide? 1 mole. And 1 mole of any gas can occupy 22.4 liters at STP. So here in this reaction, the volume of carbon dioxide is 22.4 liter. So you can say, according to this equation, 1 mole calcium carbonates combines with 2 moles of HCl, or in the terms of amount, you can say 100 gram of calcium carbonate is combining with 73 gram of hydrochloric acid. If it is gas, you can say 100 gram of calcium carbonate combines with 73 gram of HCl to give me how many liters of carbon dioxide? 22.4 liters of carbon dioxide. So the main thing that you have to understand here is the data that you are getting here can be interconverted. For example, you can relate mass with mass, or mass with volume, or volume with volume. You can do any interconversion. Now I'll show you that with an example. Now look at this question. calculate the mass of carbon dioxide produced when 4 moles of methane reacts with oxygen. So first step is to frame the equation according to the given statement. They are telling methane reacts with oxygen. Don't take this 4 moles, just frame the equation with methane and oxygen. So what is the formula for methane? It is CH4, and for oxygen it is O2. So CH4 plus O2 gives CO2 plus H2O. You know, any organic compound, when it is reacting with oxygen, if it undergoes combustion, you will get carbon dioxide and water. After framing the equation, then balance the equation. Okay, so here you have O2, so you are balancing. This side you have 4 hydrogens here and you had just only 2, so you're putting a 2 here, so 2 2s are 4 hydrogens. Now count the oxygens. Here 2 oxygen, here 2, there are 4 oxygens, but on the reactant side only 2, so put 2 here. 2 2s are 4 oxygen. Now the equation is balanced. Now after balancing the equation, you look at the question. They are giving you methane in moles, 4 moles of methane, and they are asking you the carbon dioxide produced in mass, which means you have to find it out in gram. So what you do, you look at this equation and find out according to this equation how many moles of methane is reacting. Since methane here is given in moles, here also you use the same term moles. So according to this equation, 1 mole of methane is reacting. And they are asking you to calculate the mass of carbon dioxide. So you need not worry about oxygen or water. Just look at carbon dioxide. Here it is 1 mole, but in the question they are asking you mass. So instead of mole, you just find out the mass. According to this equation, carbon dioxide's molecular mass is 44 gram. So according to this equation, 1 mole of methane is producing 44 gram of carbon dioxide. Now get back to the question. Question is, how many 4 moles of methane will give you how much amount of carbon dioxide? Now write here, 4 moles of methane will give me how much amount of carbon dioxide. Now cross multiply, 4 into 44 divided by 1. So that gives me 176 gram of carbon dioxide. So this is how you have to do the calculation. The numbers that we are writing here, we call this as stoichiometric coefficients. So that represents the number of moles of reactants or product involved in the chemical equation. Now same question. Now see, calculate the number of moles of H2O produced. First it was asked, calculate the mass of CO2 produced when 4 moles of methane reacts with oxygen. Now the question is, calculate the number of moles of H2O produced when 4 moles of methane reacts with oxygen. So again write the same equation. Okay, they have given methane in moles and asking water also in moles. So you can take moles as per the equation. So as per the chemical equation, 1 mole methane is giving you 2 moles of water. So according to the question, 4 moles of methane will give me how many moles of water? Again do the multiplication, 4 into 2 divided by 1. So I will get 8 moles of H2O. So 4 moles of methane can produce 8 moles of H2O. Now the third question, calculate the liters of CO2 produced when 4 moles of methane reacts with oxygen. So now they are giving you 4 moles of methane and they are asking you the carbon dioxide, just like it was asked in the first question, but here mass was asked, here volume is asked. So according to this equation, 1 mole of methane produces 22.4 liter carbon dioxide. If in case here 2 was there, so you should say 2 into 22.4 liters. Here just 1 mole. So 1 mole of methane produces 22.4 liters of carbon dioxide. So 4 moles of methane will produce how many liters of carbon dioxide? Again 4 into 22.4 divided by 1. So that gives me 89.6 liters of carbon dioxide. So remember, the given data in the chemical equation can be interconverted. Now the next topic that we are going to see is limiting agent. First let's define what is limiting agent and then I will explain you. One of the reactants, if it is present in larger amount than the other as required by the chemical equation. Okay, so I'm having 2 reactants. One of the reactants is present in larger amount in a reaction mixture than the other as required according to the balanced equation. Then the reactant which is present in the lesser amount gets consumed after some time. After that, no further reaction takes place, no matter whatever the amount of the other reactant present. Hence, the reactant which gets consumed limits the amount of product formed and is therefore called the limiting agent. Now, I will give you an example to understand limiting agent. Then we will come back to this definition again. Now, look at this equation. Let's take the same equation that we have just seen. Methane reacts with oxygen to give you carbon dioxide and water. So, according to this equation, 1 mole of methane reacts with 2 moles of oxygen to give you the products. So, for every 1 mole of methane, I need how many moles of oxygen? 2 moles of oxygen. But I am giving you a reaction mixture, say for instance, in that reaction mixture, I am telling you it has 1 mole of methane and 1 mole of oxygen. But according to the equation, how many moles of oxygen I need? 2 moles of oxygen. But the reaction mixture that I am giving you has only 1 mole. But according to this equation, when we say 1 mole methane needs 2 moles of oxygen, which means for 0.5 mole methane, 1 mole of oxygen will be reacting. And for remaining 0.5 mole, another 1 mole of oxygen will be reacting. But here, in the reaction mixture, I have 1 mole of methane and just 1 mole of oxygen. So, 0.5 mole of methane would have reacted with 1 mole of oxygen, and remaining 0.5 mole of methane is there, but what is not available? Oxygen is not available. So, reaction cannot proceed after that. So, the carbon dioxide and the water quantity produced depends upon the amount of oxygen available. Because it is oxygen which is present in lesser amount than required by the equation. So this is the limiting agent. So 2 moles of oxygen is needed, but only 1 mole is available. So that is what the definition said. The limiting agent is the one which is present in lesser amount than required by the equation and which limits the production of the products. That is called as limiting agent. Now we will get back to the definition. Now look here, one of the reactants is present in larger amount than the other as required according to the balanced equation. Or you can say the reactant which is present in lesser amount than required by the equation. So the one which is present in the lesser amount gets consumed after some time. After that, no further reaction takes place, whatever the amount of the other reactant present. So in that example, we have seen 1 mole of methane, but how many moles of oxygen was available? Just 1 mole. So all the oxygen got consumed, but what was remaining? 0.5 mole methane was remaining. So the reactant which gets consumed limits the amount of product formed, and that reactant is called as limiting agent. So now we will solve few problems based on this concept. Now read this question. Zinc and hydrochloric acid react to give zinc chloride. So first frame the equation. Zinc and hydrochloric acid. So Zn plus HCl gives zinc chloride. Zn Cl2 plus hydrogen. So usually they'll give you the equation or they'll give you a simple equation which you could easily frame. So don't worry about framing an equation. So now Zn reacts with HCl to give you Zn Cl2 and H2. Now see how many chlorines are here. 2 chlorines. Here only 1 chlorine. So put 2 here. Now hydrogen become 2 and here also H2. So now the equation is balanced. Now get back to the question. If 0.30 mole zinc is added to hydrochloric acid containing 0.52 mole of HCl, how many moles of hydrogen are produced? See, when we started this video, I gave you an example of methane reacting with oxygen to give you carbon dioxide and water, and I showed you how to calculate for instance for 4 mole of methane what will be the amount of carbon dioxide produced or what will be the amount of H2O produced. In that question you note one thing, the mass of or quantity of only one of the reactants was given. When only one of the reactants is given, you can go by that method, no problem. When both the reactants quantities are given, then you have to find out the limiting agent, then only you have to calculate the product formed. Now here look at this question, 0.30 mole of zinc and 0.52 mole of HCl. So mass or the quantity of both the reactants are given. So we cannot calculate by that method which we have seen at the start of the video. Now I'll show you how to do this calculation. How many moles of H2 are produced? That is the question. So you have to calculate the quantity of H2 produced. Now according to this equation, 1 mole of zinc reacts with 2 mole of HCl, which means 1 mole zinc requires 2 mole HCl. Now look at the question. They have given you 0.30 mole of zinc and 0.52 mole of HCl. You just leave one reactant and take only one. You can either take zinc or HCl. Here I have taken zinc. Now according to this equation, 0.30 mole of zinc will require how many moles of HCl? Given HCl is 0.52, let it be there, but you have to find out actually for 0.30 mole of zinc how many moles of HCl is required. So according to this equation, 1 mole zinc requires 2 mole HCl. So 0.30 mole zinc requires how many moles of HCl? So 0.30 into 2 divided by 1, that gives you 0.60 mole HCl. So for 0.30 mole zinc, how many moles of HCl is required? 0.60 mole. But what is given in the question? 0.52 mole. So it is present in lesser amount than required. So I told you what is limiting agent. The reactant which is present in the lesser amount than required by the equation is called as the limiting agent. So which is the limiting agent here? HCl is the limiting agent. While doing this calculation, if you are getting a value lesser than this value, then which will be the limiting agent? Zinc will be the limiting agent. So now HCl is the limiting agent. Now you have to calculate the amount of H2 produced from this amount of HCl, because no matter how much amount of zinc is present, HCl is 0.52. So when that HCl is finished, then no more products will be formed. So who is deciding the amount of product formed? This limiting agent. So you have to calculate the quantity of product from the limiting agent. Now get back to the equation. You are going to calculate the product from HCl because that is the limiting agent. So in the given chemical equation, start with HCl. So according to this equation, 2 mole HCl produced 1 mole hydrogen. So 0.52 mole HCl will produce how many moles of HCl? So 0.52 into 1 divided by 2. So that gives you 0.26 mole of hydrogen. So this is how you have to find out the limiting agent and then find the amount of product from the limiting agent. So remember the steps, do it step by step. The first step, frame the chemical equation and write the stoichiometry of the equation. According to this equation, what are the amounts of reactants? And then in the question, 2 quantity will be given for the reactants. Fix one and find out according to the equation for this quantity of reactant how many quantity is required, how much quantity is required, and then compare with the given quantity. If it is more, then this is not the limiting agent. When it is less, then that is the limiting agent. See here according to the equation, for 0.30 mole you need 0.60 mole of HCl, but what is given? 0.52 mole. So this is the limiting agent. Now let's try with one more example. So now the question is 3.0 gram of H2 react with 29.0 gram of O2 to form H2O. Question is, which is the limiting reactant? Number 2, calculate the maximum amount of H2O that can be formed. Calculate the amount of the reactant left unreacted. So now based on this question, you frame the equation. H2 reacts with O2. Don't worry about this amount for framing the equation. So H2 plus O2 gives H2O. Then balance the equation. Here you have 2 oxygens, here just 1 oxygen, so put 2 here. Now hydrogen becomes 4, 2 2s are 4, so put 2 here, now 2 2s are 4. So now you have framed the equation and balance the equation. Now according to the equation, you have to calculate the amount. In the previous example, they gave the amount in question in moles, so we took the moles here as per the equation. But here they have given the amounts in grams. So here, according to the equation, when you calculate the stoichiometric value, go with grams. So hydrogen atomic mass is 1, 2 hydrogens, molecular mass will be 2. So here again 2 moles are there. So 2 into 2 gram. For oxygen, 32 gram. For 1 oxygen it's 16, 2 oxygen 32. And for water it is 18, 2 moles of water, 2 into 18. That will be the amount of water produced. So 4 gram of hydrogen and reacts with 32 gram of oxygen as per the equation. Now get back to the question. They have given you the amount of both the reactants, 3 gram of hydrogen and 29.0 gram of oxygen. I told you already, fix one and leave the other one. You can either take 3 gram of hydrogen or 29.0 gram of oxygen. Again, I've taken 3 gram of hydrogen. So according to this equation, 4 gram of hydrogen requires 32 gram of oxygen. So for the given 3 gram of hydrogen, what is the quantity of oxygen needed? So see, as per the equation, 2 into 2 gram, which means 4 gram hydrogen requires 32 gram of oxygen. So 3.0 gram hydrogen will require how many grams of oxygen? So 3 into 32 divided by 4. So that gives you 24 gram of oxygen. But in the question, how many grams of oxygen is given? 29. But actually for 3 gram of hydrogen, what is the amount of oxygen required? Just 24 gram of oxygen is enough, but I have it in excess. So O2 is present in excess. So which is the limiting agent? Hydrogen is the limiting agent. So we have answered the first question, which is the limiting agent. Hydrogen is the limiting agent. Now the next question is, calculate the maximum amount of water that can be formed. So they are asking you the amount of product formed. Now you know from which reactant you have to calculate the amount of product formed? From the limiting agent. And which is the limiting agent here? Hydrogen is the limiting agent. So now let's calculate the amount of H2O produced. So let's take the equation again. 2H2 plus O2 gives 2H2O. Now according to this equation, 4 gram of hydrogen produces 2 into 18 grams of water. Which is the limiting agent? Hydrogen. What is the amount given? 3.0 gram. So 3.0 gram hydrogen will produce what amount of water? Now look here, 2 into 2 gram hydrogen produced 2 into 18 gram of H2O. You can multiply and put also, but for easy cancelling I have kept it as such. So 3.0 gram H2 will produce 3 into 2 into 18 divided by 2 into 2. So that gives you 27 gram. So we have answered the second question also. What is the amount of H2O produced? And what is the third question? The third question was, calculate the amount of the reactant left unreacted. Because we know the limiting agent is the one which limits the production of product. So as long as the limiting agent is present, the reaction will proceed and then the reaction stops. Now which is the limiting agent here? Hydrogen is the limiting agent. What is the quantity of oxygen given? 29. But we have just calculated for 3.0 gram of hydrogen, what is the quantity of oxygen required? 24 gram. But what is the given quantity of oxygen? 29 gram. So what will be the amount of oxygen left unreacted? 29 minus 24. So 5 gram of oxygen will be left unreacted. This calculation actually is very easy if you go by the steps and do it properly. For solving problems, understanding the concept is very important. So once you understand the concept, any type of question you can easily approach and do the calculations.